So, this happened about 7 or 8 years ago. My husband and I were laying in the bed one night, watching television. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a child in the doorway of our bedroom. Thinking it was our only child at the time, I tapped my hubby and said, "Hey, shh, be look, but I think Connor is going to try to scare us." He turns and looks and this child walked into our room. I can't explain it, BC it was one of those moments that seemed, somehow different. We watched in silence, soon realizing that this child was not our son. He toddles in, head slightly tilted back, curls bouncing and diaper squishing as he goes to the end of our bed. We see his head go down, like he was crouching, and when we got up to look he was gone. I looked at Chris, my husband, and said, "Did we just see a ghost?" Then, almost as an afterthought, I said, "Well, we know if we have another baby, and he has curls, that he was here before he was born." We both laugh, BC we were not trying for another baby at the time. Fascinated, we go to check on our son, and he was fast asleep. A few months later, I'm pregnant. Surprise, so fast forward and our new baby, Liam, is 2. He toddles in the room, head titled slightly back and curls bouncing, and it hit me like a bucket of ice water. Holy crap, this is a baby that came to visit us. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind. Now, on top of that, whenever Liam is staying the night elsewhere, like with my parents, he comes to visit me in my sleep. For example, one time he came and just smiled at me while I was taking a nap. He was in a little red shirt, and his hair was cut short, he left with it long. The next day I go to pick the kiddos up from mom, and lo and behold his hair is freshly shorn and he is wearing a little red shirt. I asked my mom, "Did he wear this yesterday?" And she replies, "Oh, yeah he did, but he insisted on wearing it today, so he is." So, I look at him and say, "Did you go see mama yesterday in mama's dreams?" He just looked at me, he was 4, all big blue eyes and serious, and nodded his head. So that's my glitch in the Matrix story. One of many, but the most profound. Our son, I guess, travels astral, and even stopped to see us before he was born. I would know those curls anywhere. The fact that my husband witnessed it with me makes it even more weird, but utterly fascinating. 3 days ago, I was having conversation with my father, and he was telling me about his university life. Basically, my dad came from nothing, he had a very difficult upbringing, and went to the worst high school in our city. When it was time for him to join university, my grandfather passed away, leaving my dad to take care of the family. He took the wrong major because of the wrong advice of some people, and he regrets that to this day. The courses were taught in English, which is a second language for us, and he didn't even know the language. My dad told me that it was the darkest time in his life, and he just wanted to run away. He was even thinking of taking his own life. Now, very recently he got his master's in English literature, and he was telling me that he didn't think it would be ever possible for him. My dad just recently finished this degree at an age of 55. The next morning, my dad had to drive to this town because his distant relatives live there and they are struggling financially. My dad is very a kind soul and he wanted to help them. The town is a 3-hour drive away. He drove there, and my mom was worried, so we decided we will call him every hour to check in. Well, I decided to call him. Now keep in mind, because it's a highway network, signals are weaker. He told me to wait and parked at a nearby restaurant. It was like a checkpoint for drugs. I don't know what came over me, but I started crying and went on to tell him how proud I was of him. I just babbled and kept saying that he shouldn't think he is lacking. Because he is not. He was an amazing father and a great person to look up to. You guys, my dad started crying. He told me that he will talk to me when he returns. When he got back, he hugged me and told me how, 30 years ago, he was visiting the same town and it was the time when he was at his lowest. He was visiting the same relatives and he was on a bus which stopped at a petrol station. About to call his mother, he picked up the phone, and without even dialing, he heard my voice. It was me telling him the exact same thing I said yesterday. He said that he didn't even call my grandmother after, that he just stood there and cried. It gave him the strength to keep fighting. He said he just now realized it was my voice that he heard. My parents are now taking this as a sign from God, that helped my dad when he thought no one was there for him.
This one is kind of mundane, but it still screws me up, and confuses me more than anything I've ever experienced. So, when I was 16, I got my first job as a camp counselor. My mom bought me a nice pair of hiking boots as a gift. I wore them all summer, but when it was time for me to pack and go home, I absolutely could not find them. Even though I'd worn them the day before. I searched everywhere and had my coworkers help me search, and we found nothing. I even searched everywhere once I got home, just in case, but neither I nor my family could find them there either. I kind of accepted that I wasn't going to find them, and I felt bad, but eventually forgot about it. Well, 3 years later, I was packing my things to move out of my parents' house. While grabbing a bag from under the sideboard table in the dining room, I noticed a pair of shoes underneath too, so I grabbed them to put them away. Lo and behold, it was the damn boots. Keep in mind, the legs on the sideboard were long enough that there's no way they would have gone unnoticed. All my family members denied putting them there, and we thoroughly searched everything the first time I lost them since they were expensive. Also, I didn't even lose them in the house originally. It was the campground where I lost them. This still boggles my mind to this day, and I still can't think of an explanation that lines up with where I actually lost them. A quick one from the year 2000, my mom, brother, and I were driving home from Wildwood, New Jersey. We do this every year, with local friends, in the next town over. This was the era before GPS, so we used MapQuest instructions to get around. We left Wildwood and headed home at 8 a.m. We should have been home by 1 p.m. Somewhere in New Jersey or New York, we started to get hungry because it was a long trip. We didn't have any food packed either. I was listening to my Sony CD player at the time, and I asked my mom if we could stop for a bite to eat. We got off the highway to find some food, but we soon got lost at around 10:30 a.m. We didn't see a car for miles. The roads looked weird and we started seeing roadways closed for construction, but there was no actual construction being done. We saw more than one highway entrance that was just blocked with construction cones. We didn't see the highway either, so we couldn't get back on the Garden State Parkway. We couldn't find a way out of the place we got lost, which was near a body of water. That's when we all collectively lost track of time. It's normally a 5-hour drive home. When we all came to, it was 3 p.m. We looked at each other and all said the same thing. Where did the time go? What time is it? How long have we been driving? Where are we? We finally found a weird old-timey diner and got food. The waiter gave us good directions to get home. We finally got home around 6 p.m. A 4-hour car ride turned into a 10-hour trip. When we got home we called the local friends we went on vacation with. They arrived home hours ahead of us. I recently asked my mom what she remembers about this story, and she remembers it exactly the way I posted above. She always refers to it as, "We must have been abducted by aliens," but she's not serious. She genuinely doesn't know what happened that day. Strangely, my brother can hardly recall anything that happened that day.